Brooke, what can you tell us about how the Steelers are approaching this injury with Big Ben?
Yeah, Greeny. Well, for one thing, Ben Roethlisberger will not be on the practice field today, but that's typical. That is not a reason to sound the alarm. He doesn't usually practice on Wednesdays. Mike Tomlin said that this injury could affect his preparation, but Ben Roethlisberger is a guy who is known for playing through injuries. I mean, just last year against the Cowboys, he banged up his knees and then didn't practice all week because he was a close COVID contact. And then that next week against the Bengals of all teams, he had 4 touchdowns and threw for over 300 yards. And look, like Mike Tomlin said, this guy took too many hits. He took 10 quarterback hits, and he said he doesn't know when Ben was injured. Ben might not know when he was injured, but it doesn't matter the when. It's the why that's the problem here. This offensive line is not able to protect their quarterback right now. They're also not able to get a run game going, and that's a recipe for disaster. So while Ben Roethlisberger's injury may not be a long-term thing right now, it could be something that lingers if the offensive line cannot protect this 39-year-old quarterback.
No, it's an excellent point. When you're not sure which of the multiple hits that he took was the one that injured him, I think you have identified part of the problem. Meanwhile, that's not the only problem that we have here. What is the latest on the injury to T.J. Watt?
Yeah, T.J. Watt went out in the second quarter of Sunday's loss to the Raiders. And the thing with groin injuries, which is what he's dealing with, is Mike Tomlin said they're tricky. It depends on the individual guy and his individual prognosis for how quickly he can come back. A guy like T.J. Watt is kind of like Ben Roethlisberger. He doesn't need all week to practice to play on Sunday. But the bigger issue here is that it's not just T.J. Watt's groin injury the Steelers are having to worry about. Alex Highsmith, another outside linebacker, also dealing with a lingering groin injury. That could mean increased playing time for Melvin Ingram and Jameer Jones, but the two things you don't want going into week 3 are 2 of your stars injured and trying to get back to play on Sunday.
Absolutely, and what needs to be a get-right game for them after they lay an egg last week. Brooke Pryor, outstanding as always in Pittsburgh. Thank you for getting up. Let me bring it back here to the group. And actually, Tim Hasselbeck, I want to start with you on this one because we sort of stumbled into, I think, an interesting conversation yesterday, somewhat to my surprise. And so I'll just put it in the form of this question. As you watched the Steelers this past weekend, was the problem the quarterback or was the problem everything around the quarterback?
Well, so you're probably not going to like this answer. I mean, it's a little bit of a combination, and it typically always is a combination. I know people have been sounding the alarm on Ben. It's still too early for me on that. There are times that he held the football a little bit too long and took unnecessarily hits because of how he was playing. Yeah, of course, that definitely happened. There were also times that he held onto the football and he gave his team a chance. I mean, I can think of an example where Eric Ebron drops a pass as Ben kind of escapes, fighting through some contact in the pocket. They also need to do a better job of getting the ball out quickly. A lot of that, is the design of the play, and as well as Ben getting the football out. Yes, they need to run the football better. I saw good things in the passing game when he would check it down to Najee Harris. So, I think this idea that it's all about Ben and it has to always be about Ben, I just don't think that's how the team is currently structured, and I don't think that's how they're going to operate going forward. They've played 2 good teams through 2 weeks, and they're 1-1.
That's fair. So, Neek, but you don't see it that way. You see it as...
I mean, I think that to continue on our plant theme, I love a theme. Ben is a house plant, but he don't have no house. They're not protecting him. They got him outside just in the wind like he can survive in the wilderness when he can at this point. To be fair, Ben Roethlisberger was a great quarterback and will go into the Hall of Fame at some point. But when quarterbacks age, you need to help them out. We saw that with Drew Brees last year. Drew Brees wasn't the same quarterback, but they found ways to make him successful, in large part because that offensive line was outstanding. You see it with Tom Brady. Everything around him is outstanding. Ben Roethlisberger is out there asking Ben Roethlisberger to be Drew Brees, also without Drew Brees' brain. Like, Drew Brees was successful in the latter part of his career, and frankly, Drew Brees never had a big arm, in large part because he never made poor decisions. He made quick decisions, and he quite possibly the most accurate quarterback we've ever seen throw the ball. Ben Roethlisberger is not that type of person. He's not built to age well in this system, especially if you don't protect him. And sadly, even when he's protected, I brought this stat up yesterday that Himbo helped me find. Over last year and this year, when he was protected and in the pocket, not under pressure, he had a QBR of 38. That's well below average. So we can blame the offensive line, but we can also look at Ben. It's kind of a 2-pronged problem there.
Yeah, so all the things that Brooke, in her wonderful report, mentioned, offensive line, protecting Ben, no running game right now. These are reasons why I was surprised that the Steelers didn't turn the page on Ben and hit that reset button, because you know at some point you have to. We're nearing the end of Ben's career in Pittsburgh. Because you've got an older quarterback, you got the offensive line issues, no running game. How do you protect him? And you mentioned Hembo. I'm glad you did, because Hembo gave me another great stat. Over the last 2 seasons, 41% of the Steelers' drives resulted in a punt. Greeny, do you know which team was worse than that?
The Jets?
Yeah.
Okay, you don't want to be second to the Jets in a lot of categories, right? Okay, so that's why Big Ben's injury is worrisome, because I covered that Steelers team last year, saw them go from 11-0 and fizzle down the stretch where Mike Tomlin was calling them a JV team. You know, this is why we were so worried about the Steelers.
They have a championship caliber defense. And when you have that, you want to have a game manager style of offense. And you need a good running attack to do that. They don't have any of those parts on the other side.
You can't ask him to be a cactus if indeed he is at this point
And there we go,
geranium. I don't know what. I'm not sure what a house plant exactly is, but we'll look that up in the break. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.